Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Tara and I am here today on behalf of my team in the Marine Institute in Ireland, most of whom are listed here. So today's talk is just a little bit about how we're using accreditations and certifications to support our data management processes in the Marine Institute. I suppose the purpose of today's talk, it's really just to share some of our experiences. We're still more on this journey. Some of you might be starting out, some of you are probably further ahead. So it's really just providing the opportunity here just to open some dialogue, learn from each other, and I look forward to chatting to some of you over the next couple of days. So just the contents then, it'll just be, I'll just give a quick overview of the Marine Institute in case you're not familiar with us, a little bit about requirements, some of the why we're pursuing accreditations, and also the two specifically today are around the quality management framework, the IODE accredited one, and our journey in pursuing Core Trust Seal also, which we're still currently set to do. So I'll also do a recap on our journey so far. So a little bit about the Marine Institute. We're a relatively small country with a vast marine area. We are a state agency responsible for marine research, technology, development and innovation. We provide scientific advice to government, and it's all about helping to inform policy. In the Institute, we have many data acquisitions platforms and programs and service areas. These range from fisheries, ecosystem advisory, to marine environment, food safety, ocean climate, oceanographic services. We have 2 research vessels. We're also a research funder in Ireland, and we've been recently designated the National Oceanographic Data Centre for Ireland. So we've quite a little bit going on. So with all this in mind, one of our key objectives is to support good data management practices. I'm sure you're all familiar with these requirements. It's about showing compliance with standards and best practices. How do you monitor and assess the quality of your data processes? If you're going to share data, you also need to share them in a trustworthy data repository. Your data must be managed, of course, and curated over time to always ensure that it remains useful and accessible in the future, and of course, adhering to the FAIR principles. So over the past 5 years, the Institute, we've been looking more at accreditations and certifications in supporting us to meet these requirements. So again, why we want to ensure high quality, transparent data processes, and also to be recognised as a trustworthy data repository in Ireland. How do accreditations support us? So one step, they provide a roadmap and guidance, and they set a benchmark and levels that we want to get to and achieve. And once you have that accreditation, then it also provides support that you are following best practices, or you can be a recognised data repository. So first up is our QMF, our IODE accredited quality management framework. We received this accreditation back in 2019. There's a paper as well, Ledbetter et al. 2020. So that's Adam Ledbetter, who I'm sure a lot of you know, and he was instrumental in a lot of this work. Under our QMF, we identified and fully documented all our data handling processes and procedures in the Institute, and it really helped to guide from data management all the way to the outputs. There was also a talk in 2021 by Greg Reed and Rob Thomas, so I won't go into too much detail about it today, but the link is there if any of you are interested in watching that. I will just talk a little bit about what the quality management framework really consists of and what's at its core. And each data process has to have described this implementation pack, which is 6 core components, all the way from requirements and acceptance criteria, the data management plan. We have process flows for every data process as well, and detailed standard operation procedures or step-by-step guides on how to do the process. And then we also publish a metadata record that describes the data set, and that goes onto our data catalogue where we publish the metadata and also the data where it's available, and we can also mint a DOI through this. The key then is the performance evaluations. So usually annually, this can change. We review each process, identify opportunities for improvement, and we work towards that then the following year. So we're constantly trying to ensure improvements. It's just for illustrative purposes. Here's an example of some user guides, a Word document version of an SOP. We can also, of course, have them in Jupyter notebooks as well. And here's a process flow. So this is really good to visually see the process and identify opportunities of improvement. And then here's just an example of our metadata catalogue, data.marine.ie, where we describe the data set and publish it. So our current status then, since our talk in 2021, we now have 126 data sets managed through this process, the quality management framework in the Institute. And as I mentioned, each one of those are regularly reviewed and improved. As well as that, we also regularly review and improve our quality management framework itself. We had an internal working group as well that was working at that across the Institute to get feedback and make sure we keep it relevant. We're now extending it to research project data, and we were delighted to be re-accredited just last year as well with this. So again, it's always about quality assurance of the data because they're really important and they do provide the foundation for national marine decision making. So our next step then was to look more at supporting how we support national marine programs. For example, marine spatial planning and offshore renewable energy are really growing in Ireland. We wanted to position ourselves that we were strengthening our NODC. We wanted to further extend the remit in managing third-party data, should we ever be potentially mandated to do so. And also with discrete data from external organisations, you need to capture all that appropriate documentation up front to always ensure that it's available for reuse. And we also wanted to build stakeholder confidence as well in our organisation and NODC. So what action did we take? We started to explore some complementary accreditations that would help support our data management activities, especially around data preservation. We wanted something to help review and improve the quality of our processes and that would recognise us as a trustworthy data repository. And again, it's a common goal of always managing your data over time, preserving it over time to ensure that its integrity and accessible for the future. So this brought us on to Currie Seal. So I'm sure most of you here are aware of this certification. Many of you here have it. For those of you who are not, it's an international community-based certification. It's all about promoting trustworthy data repositories. It promotes long-term preservation. It's an enabler of fair data. It was also really complementary to our existing quality management framework, and we are currently working towards a certification. We don't have it yet. We've just submitted our application, so fingers crossed. Here is just taken from the website a map of all the certified repositories in Europe. I see the Norwegian Marine Data Centre here already have their certifications of 2018, which is brilliant. BODC just received their certification in March, and there's a really good poster from Mark and Leslie as well at the back for more information, anyone interested. So how does it work? So your repository is evaluated against a number of mandatory requirements set by Currie Seal. It's a two-step process. So you go away, first of all, you do your own self-assessment against every requirement. You can benchmark where you are, identify areas that need improvement. Once then you're finished that, you can submit for independent peer review. And this is also really useful because you can get some really constructive feedback and highlight areas maybe you need to improve or you may have overlooked. This is just a global picture as well of the amount of repositories even worldwide, so it is quite a recognised certification. So again then, our journey so far over the past 5 years, it's been a long road. It's never as straightforward as you might think, but we're making really good progress. We started with our IODE accredited QMF back in 2019. We then started to look towards Currie Seal and preparing ourselves for that. We submitted an application in 2022. We did get some feedback on some certain areas we just had to work on a little bit more, so we've been working away at that. We were re-accredited with the IODE or QMF just last year, and we've resubmitted now again for Currie Seal just a few weeks ago, so pending approval. I just want to point out as well, there was many other hidden milestones along the way. Things they're not as noticeable, but there were actual big milestones for us in terms of improving the quality and transparency of our processes, how we managed also third-party and external data. We really improved our policies and our documentation, and it really helped to increase awareness of and compliance with international standards. So in conclusion, again, 2 of these accreditations had many benefits. We continuously reflected on our all levels of marine data management. It demonstrates we are following best practices, and it really does help to build stakeholder confidence. So they really helped to ensure that we are prepared to meet the challenge ahead in navigating the waves of marine data management. So thank you for your time today, and any questions?
Thank you, Tara. Very nice presentation. Yeah.
Hi, Tara. Great presentation, thank you. I think you're preaching to the converted,
yeah.
or you're preaching to the choir in this room. The question is, if you think about business as a whole, there are parts of the business that really struggle with the whole idea of this, why they should invest time and resource, because it does take a fair amount of time and resource to do it. So what are your simple kind of take-home messages about how to convince the difficult parts of the organisation or the business to take this up?
That's a really good question. Maybe one for some of the managers here, but I think really to show where you need to support things, like if you're going to enact as an NODC, to align yourself in a really good position to support programs such as offshore renewable energy or marine spatial planning. I think having these sort of accreditations and certs and badges really does enforce that stakeholder confidence. I think that's what we're certainly in a national level, that's really what we're really aiming for, is to show that we are trustworthy, that we can do this. So I think once you start getting accreditations that proves or shows evidence, for me anyway, I think, and for our organisation, that's certainly helpful. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but sorry. No.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting presentation, and remind me of the work we've done in GEO, the Group on Earth Observation. Yep. So I was just wondering who is behind the accreditation? Is it CoData, or who is, the how is that?
Culture Seal themselves?
Yes.
I think they are, it's a community-based standard, but they are a recognised group now, I think, as well. I'm not 100% sure, actually. Yeah. Leslie, yeah, I saw information in your post earlier, actually.
Thanks. I'm replying to Bente as much as anything. Core Trust Seal came from social sciences and their data seal of approval, and the World Data System that replaced FAGs and WDCs. And it was quite a long journey, and it came through the Research Data Alliance. And there we are. We've got a timeline on our poster, so you can look at that. But I think I'd also like to comment on Neil's comment to say the people in this room may be converted, but their managers and their bosses are not necessarily converted. It's quite time-consuming, and if you don't have buy-in from further up the tree, it's quite difficult to do. And I would say BODC managed our Core Trust Seal accreditation because our funding body demanded that its data centres covering a wide range of environmental sciences did this, as did Medin for the marine ones within the UK. So it's got to get buy-in from the top, and that's the people that we need to persuade to set aside the time to do it. But I think both accreditations have their plus points and help you in some ways, and the other one in others. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. We have another question over there.
Thanks, Tara, for the great presentation and overview. A question. You talked about, for example, performances monitoring and so on. That is a really useful work during the accreditation, because also our group had the accreditation recently. In my experience, maybe sometimes we are rushing and looking to show that we are doing enough, so showing how much we are doing, quantitative indicators. But in my opinion, it's not so easy to find KPIs to show which work we are doing. So trying to find maybe better qualitative indicators that are not only showing how much we are doing, but how much well maybe we are doing. In your experience, did you have suggestions, inspiration to decide which kind of KPIs, indicators for performances to choose? What did you do?
Well, part of QMF, we have a set template that we use as part of performance evaluation. So it's a whole checklist and requirements, and everybody goes through the same one and assesses various different levels of the process, and they're scored. So we can also score how it went, how it's performing. So if you're maybe getting 70% or 80%, you can really identify those areas that need improvement, and then it's fed into next year's planning, say. So I think it's really our standardised way that we review the process and grade them. If that's
Thank you, Tara.
Okay,
Let's
thank you.
move to the